Up until now, I had done many things on my trip so far on the island except for one, and I made it a point to go after waking up this Monday morning. I caught the number 3 bus in Parque Central and hit the highway headed to Playas del Este, a beautiful stretch of Caribbean beaches just a 30-minute ride east from La Habana. After only what felt like 15 minutes of driving down the coastline, we arrived at one of the most surreal places I had ever been to. The bus dropped us off on the edge of the beach, and I walked up the warm, sandy incline as the tropical, salty breeze greeted me head-on. I had never seen the ocean more blue, and the waters were so calm. Waves were gently lapping in a meditative rhythm. I made my way down by the waterside to test out the temperature, and it was perfect. Not too warm or too cold, and it was the best way to balance out the sometimes unforgiving Caribbean sun. Like a nomad looking for his next move, I decided which direction I wanted to go explore next. I knew in this instance I couldn't go wrong with any decision, so I made my next move wandering down the beach without a care in the world. It was such a therapeutic and peaceful morning to this point. I was at the most beautiful beach I had ever been to and wasn't in a hurry. A great combination, I must say. The beach wasn't overcrowded at all. There were definitely people there, but everything was so spread out at times it felt like you had the whole coastline to yourself. Can't say I've ever been in that situation before, but I'm sure not mad at it. As I walked along the beach, I kept finding myself wading in and out of the ocean, going out to where the water was just at my knees and then back. See, I love the beach, but you'll never catch me out further than my waist. I do not trust sea creatures, and that is all I have to say about that. Oh, and now's a good time to mention that after being here for 6 days, I finally got a Cuban hat. Thank God. I had many opportunities to get one earlier in my trip, but kept being an idiot and never committed to buying one. My only regret, to be honest, but hey, at least I got my hat. If there's one place where I can lose track of how far I've walked, it's at the beach. It's almost as if my sense of distance fades away due to being hypnotized by the tranquil atmosphere. That was a fancy way of me saying I didn't know where I was or how far I'd walked since arriving at the beach, but it was fine. Honestly, I'd be lying if I said that's not what I was trying to do anyway. This whole trip was about me getting lost. That was a part of the adventure, and I had been doing a pretty good job of that up to this point, so why stop now? I continued west along the beach, running into someone every once in a while, and shared a friendly conversation, then would continue on. All the lounge chairs with umbrellas set up down the beach were very tempting to rest at along the way, but I knew I had plenty of time to relax later in the day and wanted to take in more of the coastline. I'd figure I'd keep going until I felt like I wanted to turn around. Sound reasonable in my opinion. Playas del Este isn't one place. In fact, it translates to East Beaches and includes 8 different locations along the coastline over a 15-mile stretch. At this point, I still think I was in Santa Maria del Mar, one of the 8, but I'd been walking so much I could have ended up at Playa Magano by this point. Regardless of where I was, though, I was loving every minute of it. The sun was almost at its high point in the sky, a few clouds sprinkled throughout. With the wind coming off the ocean, it was an ideal day for the beach. Also, after passing a few coconut trees, I may have had the thought cross my mind to climb up and get one. However, even if by some magical scenario I made it up unscathed and managed to pluck one off, 1, I wouldn't have had a way to open it, and 2, that was just a terrible idea in general, so yeah, no. I listened to the adult side of my brain in that instance and decided to leave the coconuts where they were, in the trees. After walking down what felt like 5 miles on the beach, I decided it was time to head back towards where I was dropped off. They had those lounge chairs and umbrellas that I kept passing, and now they were screaming my name. Not to mention, they also had cocktails and pineapples, and that needed to happen ASAP, so I began enjoying my walk back. At this time, the sun was at the high point in the sky, beaming down on the sandy white coastline below. The sunscreen I had put on earlier was taking all it could handle, but truth be told, I used all of it by the end of the day and still got sunburnt. I have a left arm full of freckles now to prove it too, but I digress. The moral of the story here for this one is always have backup sunscreen. Outside of the catastrophe of not having enough sunscreen, I can go ahead and put everyone's mind at ease when I say I had enough snacks. Not only that, but I passed a guy earlier on the beach who was selling fresh tamales with various sauces, so I was keeping my eyes out for him too. Side note, selling fresh tamales should be a thing everywhere, and it's kind of a travesty that something like that hasn't taken over the world yet. I suppose if I ever become a supervillain, that could be my thing. Not to take over the world, but make sure the tamales do. I would have done an evil laugh there, but I don't know, that seemed a little over the top and too predictable. I'm really off topic now, folks, so let me reel this one back in here a bit. With the waters being so incredibly calm, people were lounging in them like kiddie pools. Music blared from various speakers from beachgoers alike, and dance parties would erupt without a moment's notice. It didn't matter where you were in Cuba, you're never far from being around dancing or music, and I love that. With all that said, I made it back to where I wandered on the beach, and took time to relax and have my drink. Got my drink in a pineapple and I wasn't disappointed. When the guy selling them asked me how much rum I wanted in it, I replied yes, and he knew what that meant. Also had a fascinating conversation about coconut milk versus coconut water, which blew my mind. It's one of those things that you never really think about until it comes up, and in that situation it came up. After a few of those drinks, I went into a rhythm of relaxing, wandering into the ocean to cool off, burn more, walk down the beach a little, come back, relax, and burn more. It was a great cycle except for the whole, burning part, but we've gone into that and y'all know how that ends. During all my relaxing and pineapple drinks, I happened to make some new friends who were sitting right next to me, both from Argentina and are equally awesome. Don't worry, y'all are going to meet them here soon, but both happen to be in this shot right now though. So there's that. I'm going for that whole foreshadowing thing, All in all, this has been an outstanding day so far. I made it to the beach in one piece without getting lost, but not really. Had a great walk up and down the coastline, enjoyed a few fresh pina coladas, and met some new friends. Not a bad way to spend my last full day on this tropical island. We all know the saying, time flies by when you're having fun, and it can't be more true. Before I knew it, I'd already been at the beach for 6 hours. I wanted to stay longer, even to see the sunset, but I needed to catch the bus back more importantly. It stopped running at 6 p.m. and only came every 45 minutes, so I had to hop on it at the right time to make sure I got a seat back to La Habana. With that in mind, I figured leaving about 4 would be good, so I didn't wait until the last minute. I made some plans with my beach friends and did a bit more walking around, taking everything in one last time before I headed back. I caught the number 3 bus back to La Habana and didn't have to worry about finding a seat. Once I arrived at the city as the evening set in, I headed to my casa particular to eat a wonderful meal that Yorki prepared. After turning my dinner into a crime scene, I then got ready for the night to go meet my new friends Diego and Diana for a night out in La Habana Vieja. My last night out in La Habana.